Hello and welcome to the United Stand. How you're doing? Jose Mourinho issues an ultimatum to Ed Woodward in the form of, well, I'll tell you in a minute, because also we'll be talking about Griezmann and Atletico Madrid impatience around Griezmann and certain players wanting him to leave. 3 iconic shirts for Manchester United to replace next summer. We'll be talking about that. Luke Shaw wanted by 3 of the top 6 Premier League clubs. One of them isn't Manchester United, and a hell of a lot more. Plus, we'll be taking a lot of your questions, so lots to get through on this non-football weekend. I know there's international football going on, but it's a non-football weekend. But the great thing is, a week from now, we will be playing football, and Manchester United will be playing football as well. So great, great, great. Shout out to the early squad. Anyway, and everyone else who's watching. Let's start off with the ultimatum from Mourinho then. The reality is that it's a very weird time for Jose Mourinho, Manchester United fans, and Manchester United in general. You know, as I've said many a time now, and I don't want to labour the point, I find it quite strange that we're second in the league, we're better than we have been for many years, and there is question marks over our manager. Now, obviously, some of that was self-inflicted. He never should have flirted with PSG a few weeks ago. Then, I don't think United fans should be turning on a manager who's got a second in the league and has won the Europa League. So I think there are parts to play by both sides. However, the one side that's not really had anything to say, and I think never steps up to the plate in these sort of things and consciously stays quiet to avoid any drama, are the owners, are the board. And I think Mourinho, look, the situation with Mourinho, no matter what you think, is he's got 18 months left on his contract. There is an option of an extra year for Manchester United, but that is irrelevant. It's a bit like when you've got an extra option for a player. You can take that option, but if the player or manager doesn't want to be at the club, there's no point in doing it. So, effectively, we've got to do something about Jose Mourinho's contract in the next 8 months. Because if we start the season next year in August and Mourinho's not been given a new contract, we all know, we've seen it before with Sir Alex Ferguson and other clubs, if you've got a manager going into their last year of their contract, it can have a real damaging effect on the pitch. So United will, I think, do something in the next few months. The feeling is that a lot of what Mourinho has been saying about PSG is because he feels he's in a strong position. And I said this a few days ago. Mourinho does have the club by the proverbial balls in many ways, because he is the biggest manager in the world, when it comes to personality and popularity and news. Mourinho is #1. PSG want that sort of manager, and PSG have got ridiculous money. They've just taken Neymar from Barcelona, they've just taken Mbappe from Monaco, who were the champions of France, so they can do anything they want to do. They could certainly prize Mourinho out of Manchester United. It wouldn't be a problem for them to do that. I don't think Mourinho wants to go. I just think he's making it very, very, very publicly aware that if he's not got the backing fully of United, and if they don't give him the deal that he wants, then, you know what, I may well go. And I think that's what is going to happen around the next few months. And Manchester United are not going to come out publicly anyway and say, oh, you know, this is not, you know, we don't want to do a deal. United will want to do a deal with Mourinho, and Mourinho should get a good deal. And I think that would be a good big positive for Manchester United to pin Mourinho down on a contract for another 3 or 4 years, because Mourinho is only going to sign that contract if there are certain conditions. And maybe the first contract he signed with United was a little bit desperate. He'd just been sacked by Chelsea. He was desperate to get the Manchester United job, and he maybe wasn't in the strongest position to get what he wanted in that contract. I think this second contract, you can say, look, definite progression, won the Europa League, won a League Cup, got a second in the league. I don't really think you fully supported me. I want a new contract, but I want these things to happen as part of that. And I think as fans, unless you're a Mourinho out fan, that for me is music to my ears, that if Mourinho extends, he's the manager I want at United, and also I think he will extend based on promises that the club will have to make for him. So I think it's a real positive about United. The flip side of that game is if United board and Woodward and Glazers decide, you know what, we're not going to give you any more money and you're going to have to do it on this sort of a budget, and Mourinho will walk. If that happens, then we know what some fans fear anyway, that this board isn't supportive of Manchester United to the tune of the money that it needs. I personally think Mourinho will extend, and I do think that he will get the money that he needs, and I think next summer will be massive for United, and I hope January will be as well. I'm going to take some of your comments, and I'm going to come to this next bit about the 3 big iconic shirts that are to come. Mourinho will thrive next season, says football is my life. Hope Jose stays at United, says Ifani. Glazers and Woodward equals rest in peace, says A. Allen. Get well soon, Goldie, says Chad. Is it that obvious? Is it that obvious? Oh God, I was going to try and keep it back. I feel rubbish. I would never say I'm not gonna do a show, because I'll always do a show. It's for you lot, but it's also a personal thing. I don't like to give in to illness, and I do feel quite crap, and it's probably coming across. But I'm fine. I'm pumped up. Got some Beechams in me, and I'll be all right. Alexander is the best left back available for Manchester United, says Fortune. I wouldn't disagree with that. Can't wait for Pogba to start playing again. He has been a massive miss for us, Damon Hosty. As I'd say before, Damien, it's very dangerous when it comes to Pogba to be a one-man team. Manchester United should never be a one-man team. We have missed him, but I don't think we should have missed him at Huddersfield. We should have won that game, and that's on the. You know, I don't want us to be a one-man team. I don't necessarily think Pogba would have meant that we would have beaten Chelsea or gone to Liverpool and win, but he's a massive, massive player. If you saw that footage before of him at the France game, and everyone's coming out and hugging him, and Griezmann, you know. We're talking about Griezmann in a few minutes, but yeah, it is interesting around that. But I do want to talk about these three iconic shirts that we have got at Manchester United, and the three shirts that will be available next summer. I mean, one of them obviously is going to be the number 7, as we all know, but there will be more as well, and I want to get your thoughts on it really, because it is. I just feel in relation to next summer, we've got no time. I mean, Woodward's always been a bit of a ditherer, and he has, you know, I'm not totally against Ed Woodward. I think he's done some good things, and I think, you know, he bought Van Gaal a lot of players, but Van Gaal picks the wrong players. Moyes was a ditherer with a new chief executive who wasn't used to it, and that was just a car crash that first summer. I think under Mourinho he's done okay, not as well last year. We should have got Perisic, like I say, but what worries me about next summer is World Cup. World Cup doesn't finish until like the 12th of July. Then we'll be on tour. So when are we going to get these deals done? And effectively, I think many of us feel we need at least another 4 players to come in and quite a few players to go out the door. So we've got to do business in January. We really have got to do business in January, and I think that we would all agree about that. Right. So let's talk about that in a moment, because I don't want to do that. I want to do that and that. Okay, so link in the video description for the Quiff app. Thanks to the Quiff app for supporting this show tonight. The link is in the video description. Make sure that if you are going to gamble, you're over 18 and you gamble responsibly. Currently, it's Denmark 0, Republic of Ireland 0. I know a lot of people will be interested in that with the Irish connections. To be honest, it's probably going to be quite a boring game. So, but there are plenty of games tonight. Spain versus Costa Rica. If you are somebody who fancies a bet, there's always stuff to bet on. The way the Quiff app works is that if you were to bet on the full-time result between Denmark and Ireland, I think draw, for me, is the obvious one to go for. Ireland are 5.5 to win it, Denmark 1.84. But the way the Quiff app works is that if you were to select a draw, put a tenner on it, you'd win £24.50 back. But the way the Quiff app works is, and the reason the Quiff app is so popular at the moment and it's really doing well, is because they will boost your bet. It's randomised, so you could go from 2.45 up to 5.45 or 3.45, but it will enhance your bet. So 2.43, it's gone down a draw. You see, with every minute, it's live time, it will go down. But the way the Quiff app works is it will enhance your bet. So download it. The link's in the video description. It adds a little bit of fun to the betting if you are somebody who likes to do it. I obviously do, and we do mention bets throughout the season, especially the previews and the watch-alongs. But it's an exciting new app because when you put your bet on, it enhances the bet for you. And my tip for you, if you fancy jumping on it, the link's in the video description. I would go Denmark, Republic of Ireland, draw. I've got a funny feeling it will be a draw, and Ireland will take them back this week to get a result later this week in Dublin. So link in the video description for that. Get yourself signed up, and remember, it enhances your bets. It enhances your bets. So that 2.45 will go up if you do it through Quiff, and that's the way the app works. Anyway, let's come back to you lot. I've got a really sore tongue as well. That's not helping me. No value on betting Denmark tonight. Too much of a risk, says Imia. Yeah, I think a draw is the one to go for. Please do drop a like on the video, and please do share. We've got low viewing numbers tonight. I realise probably why, but Chad thinks Denmark are going to win 3-1. It's a good. He's 99% sure. Bloody hell, that's quite high, Chad. Let's talk about these 3 iconic shirts that Manchester United are going to have to fill next summer, and let's get some of your thoughts on how you want to do that. I'm also still going to be talking about Luke Shaw, going to 3 of the top 6 clubs interested in him. Why Mourinho was at Italy versus Sweden with Zlatan last night. And a number of players that are up for grabs in January from Manchester United, 4 first-teamers, and also the Griezmann thing. We'll talk about that. But first of all, 3 iconic shirts up for grabs this summer. We know the number 7 shirt's up for grabs. It's been up for grabs a long time, and it is the most iconic shirt in Manchester United. In addition to that, we'll have the number 10 shirts. Zlatan will be back very, very soon, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. But he won't be here after the summer. I think he will go to America, which is where he was going to go anyway before that injury. So we'll get Zlatan for a few short months, and I think that suits everybody. I think Zlatan felt he's got unfinished business at United, and United do need somebody to come in and share the load up front. So Zlatan, the number 10, will be up for grabs in the summer. And then also, some people may say it's not so iconic as the number 10 or as the number 7 shirt, but the number 16 shirt, Michael Carrick, definitely won't be here for another year. And number 16 was obviously worn by one of my favourite players of all time, Manchester United, Roy Keane. So 3 big shirts to fill. Number 7, I think, will be Griezmann. And the reason I think it'll be Griezmann is I did a video on it in the week. I just think Griezmann, loyalty, will come to United. He showed great loyalty by staying at Atletico Madrid when their transfer ban was upheld. And I think he was coming to Manchester United. In fact, I know he was. I know that deal was being worked on for most of last season, pretty much from around this time last season to the June when he pulled out. And he stayed through loyalty to Atletico Madrid. But part of that deal was that he wouldn't sign a new contract. He would just stay. Get a pay increase, and the buyout clause would stay at £89 million effective from this January. So whether United will buy him in January or not, I don't know. Stajack FIFA says Jose out, Lampard in. Thanks for the contribution, mate. So Griezmann will come, and just very quickly on that, there are a few Atletico Madrid players. One is Juan Fran, I believe, who've said that Griezmann should have gone. His head's not in it since this Manchester United thing in the summer. And, you know, his form is effectively why Atletico Madrid are struggling. So, I always said this, look, very loyal of Griezmann to stay at Atletico Madrid if he did stay out of loyalty. But when your mind and brain's not in something, football is all about percentages. And I think he has had a drop-off. I think he did want to come to Manchester United, and he thought, you know, I can stay for another year, it's fine. But I don't think he can. I don't think his head's in it. And then you see him on that video with Pogba tonight. They've got a real good bond. And I just think Griezmann will be a Manchester United player next summer, definitely. As for the number 10, I think the number 10 shirt could potentially go to somebody within the club already. So maybe a Marcus Rashford or Anthony Martial, someone like that. I don't know necessarily we will go and buy a world-class number 10 because Griezmann would fill that sort of number 10 position that we need. Number 10 would be another striker, and I think that will be somebody within the club. As for the number 16, we do need a replacement for Michael Carrick, but at this early stage, I don't know who. Fabinho, for me, would still be a really good one, but it is what it is, isn't it? We'll have to just wait and see, but I can only reiterate that I think this next summer for Manchester United is massive, absolutely massive, and we're going to have half the time to do deals than we did last summer, and we didn't get the deals we needed to get done, and that's my concern. Half the time because of the World Cup, won't finish till the second week of July. I know people will say, well, you can do deals in July, you can do deals when the World Cup's on. You can, but you can't do loads of deals because a lot of agents and a lot of clubs will be, now we're not selling till after the World Cup because it could enhance the value of our player, or any player that's at the World Cup, they're not really available to be doing deals. So it'd be very hard for United next summer, which is why I think we've got to use January. Matthew McFadden's made a contribution. Thank you, Matthew. And he says, if he joins, Griezmann will take the number 7 shirt. Someone like Dendoncker or Barkley for 16, and a very outside bet for the number 10 shirt could be Paul Pogba. Interesting. Very interesting. Denmark just had a huge goal chance, says Rogvi Reinhardt. Griezmann 7, Pereira or Pulisic 10, 16 Fosu Mensah or Rakitic, says Shaka Phillips. And Griezmann and Saul Maguez, says Suvit. Number 16 to Fellaini, says Daniel Tam. Verratti, Griezmann, Draxler, Sanchez, says Paul Robinson. I do like Draxler. Rashford, an attacking midfielder, must start together. What's wrong with Jose? Paul Pogba, at his best, is better than De Bruyne, says Fortune. Really excited for Pogba to come back. I think he had a really good start to the season. And I think if we see that Paul Pogba that's used to the Premier League, then United will be fine. I spoke about this earlier on, actually. I put a tweet out on Twitter at United Stand MUFC, and next 5 games are Newcastle at home, Brighton at home, Watford away, Arsenal away, Man City at home. 15 points up for grabs. If we want to win the title, we've got to take 15 points, which would mean beating Watford away, Arsenal away and City at home. I think if we want to finish in the top 4, we need at least 9 points, probably 10 actually. And if we're going to struggle for 5th or 6th again, anything below 7 points. So what do you think? Brighton, Newcastle at home, Watford away will be tough, Arsenal away, they'll be tough, and then City at home. You could conceivably say 10 points is not going to be that easy to get, but I think we've got to get at least 10 if we want to be in the top 4, 15 if we want to win the title. We need to call back Pereira, says C Smooth. Well, remember, Pereira doesn't want to come back to United. That's what I would say about that. He does not want to come back to United. He wants to stay in Valencia. Can you argue with that? If he comes back to Valencia, to Manchester United, is he going to play week in, week out? At the moment, he's playing week in, week out for Valencia, and they're second in the league. So it's it really is unlikely, isn't it? So and he said openly he doesn't want to come back, doesn't want to be disrupted. So be interesting. Fionn Curtin says 10 points. Bye bye, Anthony Martial. I think we will finish 3rd or 4th this season, says Fraser Dude Evolution. I think after those 5 games, Fraser, we will have a really good idea about where Manchester United are. I mean, I'm still very frustrated by the Chelsea result last week, but I think at that halfway point in this international break, we are now starting to think positively, because real football's back again in a week's time, and Newcastle at home, Brighton at home, we should win those games. 6 points will keep us in 2nd place. I don't think we'll make any ground up on City, unfortunately, but it will keep us in 2nd place. Then Watford and Arsenal, massive games before City at home. So, you know, I think by Christmas Day, where we are in the league will really tell what's going to happen to us this season. Let's be optimistic. We might be close to City for 1st. Being pessimistic, we could be down as low as 5th by Christmas. You just don't know which way it's going to go. And I think it's massive. Massive for Mourinho. There are doubters out there, and it is gathering pace. If we have a good run to Christmas, I think it will calm down a lot of those doubters. If we have a bit of a 2 steps forward, 1 step back to Christmas and end up 4th or 3rd, I think the doubters will continue to grow, and I don't want that to happen. So I think it's massive. I can't wait for United to get back playing again for obvious reasons, but I think this run up to Christmas is going to be massive, and is really going to dictate what happens to us out this season. Really will do. Meunier in January from PSG would be a good signing, says Shaka Phillips. He would. Griezmann number 7, Nainggolan 16, Pogba 10, says Mike D. I'd love that. I would absolutely love that. Roger Renard says City's form won't continue, and then it's crucial for us to be in our best form. You know what, Roger? I think that's a good point, and I think also that United, with Pogba back, Zlatan back, Rojo back, and Fellaini back, obviously, to give us some squad depth, we will be a lot stronger. A lot stronger. Of course, we don't know whether we're going to pick up other injuries. Just because people are back from injuries doesn't mean you don't pick up injuries to other players. You know, could get Pogba back and lose Martial. Could get Zlatan back and lose Lukaku. So, you know, it swings and roundabouts, but massive few weeks for us. I do want to talk about Luke Shaw briefly. I mean, I've always been a big Luke Shaw fan. I know a lot of you haven't. And it's interesting today that Arsenal, Chelsea are interested in Luke Shaw. We know Spurs are interested. So that's 3 of the top 6 clubs interested in Luke Shaw. Obviously, we're not one of those, and Mourinho's not one of those. There's big indication that Luke Shaw will be got rid of from Manchester United. But it's interesting that big clubs like Chelsea, Arsenal and Spurs are interested in him, and they obviously see something in him that Mourinho doesn't. I think when it comes to Mourinho, and I've spoken about this quite a lot, Mourinho likes players who will run through brick walls, and he doesn't necessarily gauge players on talent. If you run through a brick wall for him and you try really hard, he will value you over somebody who is far better as a footballer, but, you know, won't run through brick walls for him. So, you know, people like Fellaini, he loves them over someone like Martial, who is 10 times the footballer Fellaini is. But Martial, for me, you know, I think he's responded to Mourinho. It's taken some time, but he has got that mental strength to do that. Luke Shaw, And Martial is a player that needs an arm around his shoulder. And some people in life do need that. Some people you can be really go and do it, and they'll do it to impress you. Some people won't respond to that because everybody's different, and some people need reassurance and an arm around their shoulder. It doesn't make them weak, it just makes them different. Luke Shaw, for me, is a player that needs an arm around the shoulder. And Mourinho is not a manager who likes to put arms around shoulders without them. You know, you put an arm around Fellaini's shoulder because he's been running through brick walls for him for over a year. For Luke Shaw to run through the brick wall, I think Luke Shaw needs the arm round on the shoulder, and Mourinho won't put an arm around the shoulder until you've run through a few brick walls for him. So that's just Mourinho's management style. So Alex Ferguson's was different. He, you know, he understood that with certain players he had to be quite tough, and with others he had to take them aside and be quite soft. Mourinho has said it himself, that I think he said it to Ferdinand in an interview in May, that that's my weakness and I have to get my coaches to do that. But when Mourinho's the one that people are looking up to, it's difficult. I think Luke Shaw, back with Pochettino, will be a good left back. I don't really know enough about the way Conte and Wenger do things as to whether he'd be good there. I think Klopp, if Liverpool are interested, but we would never sell. He seems to be a bit more of an arm around the shoulder sort of man. But Mourinho is not going to put in the effort for Luke Shaw, let's be honest, is he? He's not going to do it, and that means that Luke Shaw will leave United. And I wouldn't say I want it to happen, but I do, because I like him. I want Luke Shaw to go on and do really well, because I do want to sort of say, look, I told you so. But I don't want him to go on to the extent that it's like, you know, he's damaging United. I feel he's a good player. But there's a clash with Mourinho. Mourinho doesn't want that sort of player at the club, which is his prerogative. That's fine. It's up to Mourinho. He's the boss. But I think some fans just want to turn on Luke Shaw just because they believe in Mourinho, which is fine. And I believe in Mourinho, but I just think it's not as simple as Luke Shaw's attitude stinks, or he's lazy, or he's overweight, or silly myths like that. We had the same thing with Martial last year. A lot of people, when I was sticking up for Martial and others were sticking up for Martial, a lot of people were saying, Martial's got a terrible attitude. Look how moody he is. This, that, and the other. And we all, you know, that was such a myth. Martial's not got a bad attitude. He's not moody. He's just, you know, quite a withdrawn, sort of shy sort of character. And then you've got Paul Pogba coming out and saying, I've not trained with many people better than Anthony Martial. I think the problem with Martial is that Mourinho wanted him to conform to this character that he is now, which is mentally strong, running through brick walls for him. I don't think Luke Shaw can do that. I think Luke Shaw will always, through his career, need to be dealt with in a certain sort of way. And Mourinho doesn't want that. It's up to him, but he doesn't want that. But I do think Luke Shaw can go on and have a decent career somewhere. Min May says, Mourinho just wants hard workers. Is that too much to ask? No, I just said it isn't. Mourinho can have what he wants. He's the boss. De Bruyne syndrome, says Smurfin McMurfin. Comment of the night. Absolute comment of the night there. Brilliant. Absolutely superb comment that. De Bruyne is exactly like Luke Shaw. He needs an arm around the shoulder. He needs looking after. He needs to feel special. And look what he's done at Man City. At Chelsea, Mourinho didn't want that sort of player. And he was awful. De Bruyne was awful at Chelsea. Mourinho doesn't want to be an arm around the shoulder manager. He wants mental strength, and he thinks that's more important. That's a weakness in Mourinho, because look at what De Bruyne is doing. But look, Mourinho's been very successful as well. Mourinho's got the right to build whatever team he wants to, and he will be judged on whatever team he builds at Manchester United. And I think he will build a title-winning side. But if you're asking for me for why it's not worked with Luke Shaw, I don't think it's about ability. I think it's about Luke Shaw's personality. And Mourinho doesn't like that sort of personality. He doesn't want to work with it. And De Bruyne is the prime example. I think De Bruyne and Luke Shaw are very, very similar. And yeah, very, very good comment that. We need to give our youth player a chance. The ones who is capable of managing the games is Courtney Baker. Fortune says he hates the international break. Not long to go, mate. Not long to go. I don't think Martial can do what Jose is asking for. I think Jose wants him to carry the team in a bad game, but I think Martial is more of a player who thrives in good games, says Chad Sproul. As I said at the start of the week, Chad, I think, look, Martial's our best player, and this ridiculous tactic of bringing him on for the last 10 minutes or 20 minutes is stupid. It is stupid. We're not winning enough games to have that luxury. We're Manchester United. Play your best player from the start. Build your team around him. Martial needs to start playing games. I really do like Marcus Rashford. But Marcus Rashford's form recently has not been good enough. I think Martial needs to start games for United. Abijat says Mourinho has to be the star and hates anyone stealing his thunder. I'm really enjoying the show tonight. I hope you are all as well. You're really grabbing into the Saturday night sort of chuck questions, and we'll whiz through them and talk about other stuff as well. Picture quality, says Professor FC, should be fine. It should be absolutely fine. I don't know what's going on. Let me have a quick look at my end. Yep, absolutely fine at my end. Drinking tonight, Mark, says Eric. No, I'm not drinking tonight. I feel very, very rough. Not feeling great at all, but you know, I'll always do a show for you, so that surely deserves a like and a subscribe if you're new. Said it before, if Shaw was playing every week game, Jose would start Martial more. Mini Diver. I think that's the sad thing, that Luke Shaw and Anthony Martial down the left hand side could have solved our left hand side problems, but I think it all just comes down to that they don't have the personality that Mourinho wants, and it's not a criticism. Everyone can have whatever personality they want, but Mourinho wants a certain sort, and De Bruyne is the perfect example. Mourinho got rid of De Bruyne, and look what he's doing at Man City with somebody who puts their arm around his shoulder. Dave B says Luke Shaw's not been given a fair chance. Yep, I agree. Thoughts on Lukaku scoring against Mexico but not for United, says Carlos Hernandez. It's good for Lukaku to score. It was a lucky goal, and might give him a bit of confidence. McEvra says, Poppy Mark, remember the dead. Apologies, I haven't put my Poppy on. I should have done that. I could go and get it, actually, but I'm not going to get up now. We're halfway through. I'll wear it tomorrow for the Sunday show. But I've been to Blenheim Palace today, so I'm very fully aware about remembering what the Poppy's all about. Blenheim Palace is the birthplace of Winston Churchill. Obviously involved in World War 1 and 2 for UK and England, and yeah, very important day that we remember those who died so that we can live in the way we want to live. So yeah, very important message that, and you know, I'm very aware of it, which is why today I went over to Blenheim Palace, because it's an important day. Jomo should show some Fergie balls and play the youth, says Throb Delica. Thoughts on Mkhitaryan scoring, says Alec. I'm not bothered. It's crazy on O'Connell Street, says Kieran Byrne. That's in Dublin. Antoine Griezmann and Ron Lukaku, deadly duo with the Champions League, says Fortune. And when Mourinho was in Madrid, he played Fabio Contral more than Marcelo, because Mourinho likes his left back to be balanced. Football is my life. I was planning to come to Blenheim to meet you, Mark. I stay in Oxford, says someone. I did tell people last night I was going to be there. I totally forgot that somebody might have come up to me. What else are we going to talk about? Yes, this is a good one. Manchester United got 4 first-team players out of contract in January. Ashley Young, well, say January, May. Ashley Young, Daley Blind, Ander Herrera, Juan Mata. The expectation is that none of those players, all of those players will get a contract extension, because all of those players, Manchester United have got a 1-year extension option on it. This is what I was talking about last night, about this nonsense out there that Ander Herrera has agreed to join Atletico Madrid. Ander Herrera has not agreed anything, because Ander Herrera can't agree to join Atletico Madrid without Manchester United giving him permission to do it, because he's a Manchester United player. His contract is up in May, but Manchester United have got an option to extend it for another year, and they will do. The same for Blind, the same for Mata, and the same for Ashley Young. And before you all go into a meltdown, the reason Manchester United will do this, I'm struggling to talk, the reason Manchester United will do this is because even if they want to sell Daley Blind, they're not going to do that without extending the contract, because then we'll get a transfer fee for him in the summer. It's the same what we did with Luke Shaw last summer. We extended it by a year, because if we hadn't done that, Luke Shaw would be free to go this January, May. So Herrera, Mata, Blind, Ashley Young. Personally, I'd get rid of Ashley Young. I know he's been playing really, really well at the moment, but he's too old. He's too old. This is the problem. I think I class Ashley Young as one of the deadwood players. I know he's been doing really well, but he's a winger playing as a left back for a start, and defensively, Ashley Young's shocking. It's just what he does going forward, and he tries really hard. But defensively, he's not been very good this year. He's got us a few assists, and I think he'll do really well this year, because he's trying to go to a World Cup. But I'd cut him loose in the summer, and we pay him about 120 grand a week as well. And I think he's 32 now, so I'd cut him loose and get a proper left back in. That's the reason I'd get rid of Ashley Young. It forces us to get a proper left back. Daley Blind, I think, will want to move on himself, because he doesn't play enough. decent squad player, but I think he will want to move on. Mata, I've got a funny feeling Mata might go. Wouldn't want him to. And Herrera, well, maybe Herrera will go. Maybe Herrera wants to play first team football and he'll force his way through, but I would keep hold of Herrera as well. Ashley Young should have been sold years ago, says Glenn Light. Too old, agreed, says Night Whisper, talking about Ashley Young. Fellaini can talk to anybody in January. We extended Fellaini's contract by a year last season, so we either need to give him a new contract now or he can go for free. And no new contract for Fellaini yet. What I predict will happen with Fellaini is Fellaini's back fit after the international break. I think Fellaini will play some games, he'll score a goal, and when there's a big high moment, it will be announced that he's signed a new contract already. I think he's already signed a new contract. I just think they want to time it right, because you've got to be careful with Fellaini, because there are still people who would sell him. And if they announced he'd signed the new contract tomorrow, I think after the bad results against Chelsea, and some people still aren't sure about Fellaini, and he's 30 years of age, and you know, is his footballing style really what we want at United? I think there'd be a bit of a negative backlash to it. Whereas if he scores a couple of goals in the last 10 minutes against Brighton, and then they announce it the next day, everyone's on a high, it's positive, and you know, 3-year contract for Fellaini. So I think Fellaini, I'll be absolutely stunned if Fellaini doesn't stay. He can speak to Besiktas or anybody he wants to speak to in January and sign a pre-contract agreement, and you know, there'll be no signing on fee because he's out of contract for us, so he could get quite a hefty signing on fee. And if he wants one last big payday, maybe he will do that, but I think Fellaini will stay. But in the case of Mata, Herrera, Blind and Ashley Young, they can't talk to anybody in January. We've got an option of another year and we will take it, even if we're going to sell them. Where will Ibra go in the summer, says Kevin Grants. I think he'll go to America, mate. I think that's where he'll go. And Paul Robinson's Mark, think about how many deadwood players there are and how many players we need already. There's a lot of players we have to purchase. Yes, Paul, very good point. And I've been saying this for a while. The problem Manchester United have got, and it's showing itself now, and we've been saying it probably for about 2 years, is that squad is a very big squad. And you can sort of understand why, if it's true, the club have said you've got to sell before you can buy. Because we have got a very big squad of players on very good money who aren't good enough. I'm not saying they're bad players, but I think we've got a lot of 6 out of 10 players where we need to get rid of about half of those and buy in a couple of 8 out of 10 players. I think that's United's problem. Massive squad full of deadwood, and we do need to bring some new players in as well. So if you leave it all till next summer and you've got 4 or 5 players to get rid of and 4 or 5 players to come in, that's 10 deals to do in a month because it's World Cup year. We can't do it. I think what will happen is, if we don't do any business in January, seriously, we will go into the summer, we'll probably sell 2 players and sign 2 players, and in a year's time we'll be saying the same thing again. Too much deadwood, we really need to do it. So January needs to be used as far as I'm concerned. I think we wasted last summer. I don't think we got enough people out the door, and we certainly didn't get enough people in the door. Could have done with getting rid of another 2 with Rooney and getting another 2 in. So we wasted that summer in a way. In January, I think we need to get rid of a couple and get a couple in as well. And the deals can be done in January. It's a really interesting summer because there's so many players that would suit United that are available for free or going into their last year of their contract. So, as I've said before, Mesut Ozil, Alexis Sanchez, Ross Barkley. Everyone knows Griezmann's buyout is 89 million, which is cheap compared to Mbappe going for 150 million. So there's a lot of deals there where the clubs who own those players, maybe normally they'd be like, oh, it's Manchester United, add another 20 million on. They can't. Everton can't add any more on for Barkley. Arsenal can't add any more on for Sanchez or Ozil because they're going to be out of contract. Griezmann, Atletico Madrid can't say we want 120 million because his buyout's 89 million. So United need to be very, very strong, very, very determined, and they need to go and get some deals done in January. And I really hope that we do. I really hope that we do. Let's have a look what some people are saying. Ryan C says, Young out, Darmian out, Blind out, Carrick retires, Zlatan moves. See, that would be 5 out. And would you miss Ashley Young, Darmian, Blind, Carrick retiring and Zlatan moving on? That gets rid of 5 players. That probably gets rid of nearly £1 million a week in wages. Whenever United get rid of the deadwood players, United will bring back their fear factor, says Aldane Malcolm. Remember as well, it's not all about buying players in. We do have some young players that can come through as well. I didn't like Mbappe move, but he can run down his deal and go anywhere for free and still be around 24, says Andrew K. Gary Wells says, I like Blind personally and believe he will stay. I like Daley Blind. I don't think he should start games, but as a squad player, I really like him. I don't know whether he will be happy doing that. I think if we don't do any business in January, it may suggest which club Jose will be at, says Sally Devil Red 7 Mitchell. Good point. Well, we opened the show with that, didn't we? Mourinho, whether people like it or not, is in a very, very strong position. PSG would take him tomorrow. I think he wants to be at United, but he wants backing. He's got 18 months left on his contract, which means United have got to do something in the next 6 months because you cannot afford to have a manager in their last year of their contract. United will offer him a contract. If he signs it, that's going to be good for us because Mourinho knows exactly what the fans know, that we need more input and investment from the club if we want to catch people like City. And if Mourinho signs a new contract, he will be demanding that sort of thing in the terms of the contract. So Mourinho signing a new contract would be the most positive situation for me, because if Mourinho leaves and doesn't sign the new contract, that means the club are not giving him what he wants. So regardless if Mourinho leaves and we get a new manager in, the new manager is going to be working under the same restrictions as Mourinho. So the best outcome for me is Mourinho signs a new contract, because then we know he's getting the backing he wants, which is the backing that the fans want. Kidge Harvey makes a good point. It's always hard for us to sell these Deadwood players when they're on such good money. It is, but a lot of those players are, you know, Ashley Young, Blind, you know, they've got 1 year left on their contract. You could, you know, we might not get much of a fee for them, but getting rid of them shouldn't be a problem. Which two in January would change our season mark, says Paul Robinson. That's a cracking question. I'm going to actually probably develop that. Into a bigger theme for a show in itself, but get commented and give us your thoughts. If I could sign two players that are realistically going to improve Manchester United in January, and obviously I could say Messi and Ronaldo, but that's never going to happen. Looking at what's available and looking at what, you know, I'm more than happy. I'm more than happy if Ed Woodward's watching or the Glazers are watching to say, look, I know Manchester United are a business, and I'd rather pay 20 million for a player than 40 million, as long as the player's good enough. Of course, I understand that. I don't want to be like, oh, just have whatever you want. You know, we are a business that's, you know, we're not funded by billionaire sheikhs or oil money. We are funded by hard-earned money from the fans, and you know, there is a responsibility with that. So I would always be looking to do a good deal, and the opportunity to do good deals in January is there because of the situation of some of the players. So I do like the look of Dendoncker from Anderlecht, but I also agree with what some people have said, that we are, you know, it's not a great league. He's a bit of a risk. So look, Ross Barkley in January can be done, and I think he would add some exuberance and depth to our midfield. He's out of contract in May, so that means at the end of the season he goes for free. I think if we offered Everton 15 million, 20 million, maybe 15 million in January, they would take the 15 million rather than nothing in May. And I remember this happening before. I can't remember who it was. I think Arsenal did it with somebody a couple of years ago. It was a very similar situation where the player was going to be free in the May, but they got him in the they got somebody in the January, and they didn't pay a hell of a lot for it. So I'd offer Everton 15 million for Barkley. I'd bring him in, and 15 million to United's nothing. And I'd do the same with Ozil, 20 million. He's going to go for nothing in May. 20 million for Ozil. Ozil and Barkley, 35 million. And I think they would suit us really, really well. Or we could go 89 million Griezmann. Or we could wait for the summer to do that. But those are deals that can be done. They're common sense. The club, you know, you're never going to get Ozil in January if he's got 3 years left on his contract. I mean, you're never going to happen. But obviously, people will mention Alexis Sanchez. I'm not going to mention Alexis Sanchez because I think he wants to go to Man City. Messi still hasn't signed a new contract, and he can leave in January. Again, I think if Messi was going to go anywhere, it would be Man City, and that terrifies me. How United would deal with coping with Manchester City and their attack if they got Messi as well would be very, very interesting. United would need to respond to that big time. So yeah, those would be the two I would go for. Drop a like on the video, everybody, if you are watching. Happy to carry on going, and be nice to get to 500 likes before we're done. Paul did set the question. He says Barkley's a real gamble if he doesn't kick on for sure. Yeah, look, it could happen. If it doesn't happen, it's probably because Mourinho doesn't really fancy him, and we know Mourinho can change his mind. I know he did used to like Barkley. Danny Rose, mentioned by a few. Rose and Meunier in January. Says Shaka Phillips, both fullbacks. Yeah, I couldn't argue with that. Quadrado, says Alexander. Mahrez is way better, says Lamia. Grimaldo is a player we're crying out for, says Red Devil Dylan. Do I think that Mkhitaryan can turn things around? And it's a very good question from Samuel Sadiq. Well, what do you think? Because while I'm answering a question, it's always useful to see what you lot think. Can Mkhitaryan turn it around? I think he can, but I did say after the Chelsea game that I really do fear he's going to be a flop now. So if I'm going to say he's going to be a flop, he's not going to turn it around, is he? I think for Mkhitaryan, that last period between the international breaks in October was atrocious. Started in Anfield, where he bottled the 50-50 tackle with Salah, and then just continued to bottle everything else. His attitude, his confidence were on the floor, and I don't understand why Mourinho kept playing him. I think Mourinho was just like, hopefully he'll just play his way through this and come through it. Because Mourinho put a lot of trust in him, considering he could have played Mata there, he could have played Fellaini as a number 10 before he got injured, and he didn't. He stuck with Mkhitaryan. So I don't think Mkhitaryan's going to turn it around at Manchester United for the simple reason his form is atrocious. But also, when we get Pogba back, when we get Zlatan back, I don't think Mkhitaryan will be playing anymore. And then when you're not playing, how do you turn it around? I think Mkhitaryan could be gone in the summer. And I know that sounds sad, and it is sad because I liked the signing, but there's no guarantees Griezmann will work. As much as I think Griezmann will work, there's no guarantees he'll work. You know, he is a bit lightweight himself. I was really excited when we signed Kagawa, and I think Mkhitaryan's going down that route as well. Fantastic player, but just doesn't suit the Premier League, and I think that's Mkhitaryan's problem. He doesn't suit the Premier League, and he doesn't even play like he used to. He gets the ball in space and he puts his head down, and then he gets knocked off the ball. He's probably one of our worst players in the squad at the moment, Mkhitaryan. I'd love him to turn it around because on his day he's a very, very good player. But I just don't see it. And for the reason I don't see it is because I think when all the players are back, I don't think he'll be starting football games. Although some people do stand by the fact that when we get Pogba back, Mkhitaryan will be a better player. I'm intrigued to see if there's anything in that because I think it's nonsense. I don't think that a player, a professional footballer, can have an excuse that I've been playing badly because another player's injured. You've got to take responsibility, especially in a Manchester United shirt. I don't want players in a Manchester United shirt who only play well with another player. They've got to, you know, Manchester United is about, well, it was always about having individuals who collectively come together but will battle as an individual and pull in performances no matter what, and that's not good enough from Mkhitaryan for me. Mr. Zaki Boy says, is the solution to put Mkhitaryan back out on the right? No, it isn't. Number 10 actually is his best position, but it's just not working out for him. I think he's turning into a bit of a Kagawa. I think it's the Kagawa syndrome. I just don't think he suits the Premier League. Draxler would be amazing, says football is my life. Andy Pandy says, I like that answer about Mkhitaryan even though I don't like it. Who would I replace for Mkhitaryan, says Kermit33. I'd like to see Pereira coming back as the backup, but Griezmann would be the number 10 for me. He'd wear number 7, he plays the number 10. I'd love to see Griezmann playing that position. But he might not suit the physicality of the Premier League as well. I think he would, but we could have the same situation. I don't think Rashford as number 10 works. MUC-TAR. I think Martial could work there, but I don't think either will be tried there. Kagawa was better, says Ryan C. You know what? I think Kagawa was better. I don't think Kagawa really got many games because he was bought by Sir Alex, wasn't he? And he was at the club when we won the Premier League title, and then Moyes never really wanted to use him. FIFA says the reason Lukaku scores for Belgium is because they've got a good midfielder. It just reiterates what we've been saying for a couple of weeks now, that Lukaku's dry spell does coincide with Mkhitaryan's poor form. If you haven't got a number 10 providing the creativity, then you're not going to create chances, and we haven't had many chances this last month. Would I take Modric, says Dave B. 100%, yeah, of course I would. You don't get battlers in number 10. They're supposed to be creative, says Lamia Side, which is fair enough, yeah, I do agree with that. But you've got to put your foot in, and if you're not going to put your foot in like Mkhitaryan, when you get the ball, you've got to be creative, and he hasn't been doing either. If we don't get Griezmann, who do we go for, says T-Dog Man. Dybala is an option. There's a lot of options out there, but I'm convinced it will be Griezmann. I really am. Summer Green says, I love the United stand. Well, you know, you're all part of it, so thanks for your support. And Red Devil Dylan says, you'll be surprised how powerful Griezmann is. He won't have a problem. I don't think he will. I don't think he will have a problem at all. I love Griezmann, and I think he really would fit Manchester United and the number 7 shirt like a glove. I think he will do. But what I'm saying is, until he plays in the Premier League, the jury will, obviously, there will be a doubt. But I think he'll be absolutely fine. Fortune says, Paul Pogba was the only footballer Antoine Griezmann follows on social media. Hint that Griezmann will join United. I'm convinced he will. I'm absolutely convinced he will. Anyway, my throat needs a rest. I feel absolutely atrocious, so I'm going to go and rest up now. We are back tomorrow night at 8 o'clock with the Sunday night show. Thanks everyone for watching. I've struggled through it, but I'm glad I did it. So do drop a like on the video if you appreciate it. We can't be cancelling shows because of man flu, so I've worked my way through it. And I'm really grateful for all the great questions you've thrown at me, because you make it a hell of a lot easier. I would have struggled tonight without them. So this is the brilliance of the United Stand. It's the community we have and the great questions that you put up and then you will comment on. So thanks everybody for getting involved on the live comments. If you're not watching live, do give us your thoughts below. I think the biggest question I'd love to see what you've got to say on is, can Mkhitaryan turn it around at Manchester United? And if so, how? Get commenting below if you're not watching live. Thanks everyone for watching. Don't forget to drop a like. Subscribe to the channel if you're new through the icon in the bottom right hand corner. It's Sunday Night Live tomorrow, so you should have Ross and Flex on, and then we're building towards real football again. And remember, we've got our 24-hour stream this time next week, 24 hours for a charity, which will be launching that charity tomorrow. So thanks everyone for watching, and remember, if you fancy a bet, the Quiff app, link in the video description, get your bets quiffed. You put a bet on and it basically enhances your odds on every bet that you do. The link is in the video description for that. I hope Ireland can get a good result, I really do. But apart from that, I shall see you all tomorrow, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. 8 o'clock Sunday Night Live on the United Stand. Speak to you all very soon. I feel rough.